2025. I use the word prediction there, guys. So I think throughout 2025, we will give you guys a bit of an update on how things are looking based on our predictions as well. But just wanted to give you an idea of, again, what happened in 2024 and where we think it's going to land in 2025 as well. Your speakers today are myself, Richard Bexon of Costa Rica Investments, and also Jake Alexander, who's here, who's an investment specialist here at Costa Rica Investments. I spend a lot of my time looking at data and also investing myself and helping people invest here. Jake spends a lot of his time kind of on the ground with investors out all over Costa Rica, helping them invest. So I would say two similar but different perspectives, just because, again, we spend a lot of time in data, but I also, again, invest the fund's money and also my own money in projects throughout Costa Rica. Jake, well, does invest his own money here as well. He's done a couple of projects and also helps, I would say the majority of his time spent helping investors invest here in Costa Rica. So today's the agendas, guys. We're going to take a look at some factors of what's driving the 2024 kind of investment, I would say, factors here that we kind of look at. The country data is one of those things that we're going to look at. We're also going to look at vacation rental data as well, guys. Occupancy, average daily rates, and also how they impact certain locations, growing locations, declining locations. We're also going to take a look at some real estate data as well, guys. For, I would say, for what it's worth, we've got data here on the majority of the larger websites here, the MLS, and also just some bank default or bank real estate data that we have here as well. We're going to take a look then also at the summary of 2024, so kind of bringing all those things together for a summary for you guys. Then our projections of what's going to happen for 2025, and then also some questions at the end, guys. If you have a question at any moment, feel free to just ask the question here, guys. We will get to it at the end, just so that we can get through this, and then we'll basically go to the questions and answer everything at the end. So at any moment during this webinar, if there's any question that you have, type it in, and then we will answer it at the end. Okay. So the first thing, kind of factors that we review, that we review when making investments in Costa Rica, but also things that you should be looking at to analyze your investments here in Costa Rica. One of those factors is tourism, guys. You should be looking at arrival data. One of the things that we look at is Google Trends as well, and we'll show you that. That's not something that I would say many people look at, but the data is actually out there. You kind of have to pick away at it and also analyze that data. But Google Trends is kind of more of a leading indicator rather than a lagging indicator. Leading, meaning it's looking online at people that are looking for accommodation and flights, etc., coming to Costa Rica. We're also going to look at vacation rental data, guys, average daily rates, ADR, occupancy, and also number of listings as well by certain locations, so you guys can get an idea of kind of what's happening or what has happened in certain locations throughout Costa Rica with regards to vacation rental data. And we'll also take a look at some real estate data there as well, guys, just number of listings that have become available. Remember, real estate pricing is a function, I would say, of supply and demand, but also it should be cash flow. And that's where most people don't look at it. Things is they'll look at demand and supply and pricing, but they aren't looking at the underflowing cash flow of an investment property here in Costa Rica. And that's really what should be driving it. And we'll get into that a little bit later as well. We'll take a look at the MLS data. It's only 2 years old, so forgive the data that's there, guys, but we'll show you what's there. And then also just look at some bank data as well from the start of the year to now. This is just where basically people have defaulted, banks have taken on properties. It may not give you a great view of, I would say, the expat community here, but I think it's just an indicator of kind of just the general feel of the economy here in Costa Rica as well, guys. Okay. So without further ado, guys, we'll jump into Costa Rica tourism data here. We're going to be looking at tourism data from 2019 to 2024, and then the projection of 2025. We'll be looking at arrivals and also airports here as well. This is kind of just give you a bit of a macro view on Costa Rica. So the first thing we're looking at here, guys, is just kind of like the arrivals, monthly arrivals by year, kind of the seasonality here. So the blue line, which is kind of very similar to the red line there, is 2019. The red line is 2023, and then the yellow line is 2024. If you notice, the 2024 line only goes up to November because we don't have December's data in yet for arrivals because we're not finished yet. But in summary, 2023 was exactly the same as 2019, meaning we were back to that high tide of the watermark of arrivals into Costa Rica, which was great news. And 2024 this year has been an increase overall. It was a higher high season, as you can see by the yellow line there, guys. But one thing we have seen, which we were not expecting, is a bit of a softer low season. But I think that that's probably due to macroeconomic and political environment in North America, especially the US election there as well. A lot of uncertainty, and just was that kind of had an impact on arrivals here in Costa Rica. That's my hypothesis, guys. Q1 2024, we saw a 17% increase over 2024. So, sorry, over 2023. So a 17% increase in Q1 from 2024 to 2023, 12% in Q2, then a bit softer in Q3, guys. They're at 3%. And so far, Q4 has actually been negative 5%, guys. And hotels are actually reporting very similar numbers as this as well. I asked quite a few hoteliers for some of their data, which they shared to me. And it's very similar to what they are actually seeing there. So I think it's like low season is kind of back here, guys. And we'll kind of give you our prediction of what we think is going to happen in 2025, which actually is right here. The blue line here represents 2025, guys. We believe that 2025 is going to be a busier high season, but we believe that there'll be a further slowdown in low season. Post-pandemic, we didn't see these kind of ups and downs that we'd seen before, or not as, I would say, as deep of a drop in September and October as we had seen. Whereas now we're starting to see that, especially in 2024, and I think we'll continue to definitely see that in 2025. It's going to be interesting. I've got some friends that are like, no, I think it's going to be a great 2025. I've got other people that are like, look, I think it's going to be about the same, a little bit worse. I personally think, and we believe, guys, it's going to be roughly probably about the same. We do think that Q1 is going to be a little bit higher, but we think that then Q2, Q3, Q4 is going to be a little bit softer than we have seen there as well. Again, difficult to predict this stuff out, but this is just based on conversations that we've had and also the data that we're seeing there. When you see that arrival data, not per season, but as a country, guys, there as well, 2023 was beating pre-pandemic numbers, just a little bit there. And then 2024, we saw a 9% growth over 2019 and, literally 9% over 2023, which is a huge number. We believe, again, next year that it's going to be very flat, guys. We don't think there's going to be huge amounts. It's probably not what everybody wants to hear, I'm sure. But we do believe that it's probably going to be somewhat flat. As I said, there are higher Q1, and we think Q2, Q3, Q4 is going to be slightly off. And I think that that's going to basically mean that there's not going to be much growth as well. We also think that the exchange rate is making Costa Rica a bit of a, expensive destination as well. I mean, this time last year, I think we were probably at 540, 550. We've seen a reduction of 10% even further down to about 500. 2 years before that, we were close to 700. But I mean, we don't include this in here, which is the colon exchange rate, but we also believe that the colon will actually devalue against the dollar as well, meaning the dollar will get stronger against the colon. We're starting to see it a little bit at the moment, but I think that my prediction is probably round about 525, 530 at the end of next year. But again, I'd have probably said that last year, so take it as a grain of salt. I'm not an economist on that front, guys. But I think it's making Costa Rica an expensive destination because remember, all of the costs to these companies are in colones. They're receiving dollars from foreigners, changing them to colones, and it's not going as far, which means that their expense profile has gone up, and they'll pass some of that pain over to the customer, making Costa Rica a more expensive destination, which could again have a negative impact on the country with regards to its how competitive it is against other destinations. It already was expensive, and we do think it's going to continue to be expensive, guys. But I mean, Costa Rica has always been a quality over quantity kind of destination. Mexico being more of a quantity, Costa Rica basically being more of a quality. As we look at arrival data into airports here in Costa Rica, this will just give you an idea that Liberia continues to grow, as you can see there, in 2019, 24, 2023, 30, 2024, 33. It continues to grow. We believe that's going to continue, guys, into 2025 with 35%. New routes are being opened up into Liberia, and just the growth seems to be in that area with regards to real estate as well. One bit of data that we didn't analyze, which we probably should do, is just seeing where the growth in the number of listings are throughout Costa Rica as well. We take a look at Costa Rica's real estate listings as a whole, but we don't take a look at where that listings are actually growing. So it would be interesting for us to take a look at that, and maybe we'll cover that kind of in the next podcast. Now, to give you guys an idea, Google does have a thing called Google Trends. I like to look at it as like a leading indicator, meaning that it's people that are online looking for accommodations and also flights to Costa Rica. It really gives you an idea of what demand is about. People, you maybe go asking, well, why are you looking at tourism data when it's real estate? Well, the buyers are tourists that come into the country. So it's best to look at the tourism data because it's going to detail where the buyers, basically the volume of buyers coming into the country, because every single one is a potential real estate investor. And if there's less of them, then there are less real estate investors, guys. So, we're looking here. This is kind of like a leading indicator of it's people searching online for certain things, meaning they're not in country, they haven't arrived, they haven't spent money, that the intent kind of is there. So this is kind of the graph here, guys, 2024 being blue, 2023 being red there. As you can see, it's kind of a little bit I would say all over the map, depending on certain areas. Demand is up in general for Costa Rica in 2024 compared to 2023, just marginally. However, recently the trend has been off by about 8% since August, guys. So the demand for Costa Rica is off 8% since August. Now, we'll need to see how that turns into high season. I actually spoke to the owner of one of the largest travel companies here in Costa Rica, and he's actually saying that post Christmas the demand is actually up and like it looks pretty normal. So that 8% doesn't seem to be holding so much into December, but we'll see what that looks like as we have, arrivals into Q1 here as well. But we do believe that Q1 will still be a great high season here in 2025, guys. But as I said here, this just gives us a leading indicator, meaning that throughout the year, yeah, everything looks, pretty normal. But since August, we're basically 8% off here on Google Trends, and we just need to take a look and see how that's going to impact the numbers for arrivals for next year. Okay. So in summary, tourism is up in 2024, guys. We've seen a little bit of a lag off towards the end of the year. I do think that that's going to be based on the US election, guys, and just a lot of uncertainty there and still uncertainty going forward. We have, a low season here. We saw a decline into that low season, and I think we'll continue to see that into 2025. Liberia continues to grow, guys. I don't think any surprise there, and I think we'll continue to basically see that happen. And I also think that we're going to have a lot of volatility in 2025, guys. And I think that the growth that Costa Rica has been on, I think is definitely going to slow in 2025 as well. I mean, just that, that increase from 2023 to 2024, I don't think we're going to see that jump again going forwards into 2025. As I said, it's our prediction that it's actually going to be flat in 2025 overall, higher Q1, but we think the rest of the year is going to be pretty soft, guys. So anyway, that's it from the tourism front. I'll hand over to Jake now, basically for the vacation rental side.
Thanks, Rich. So we're going to start looking at some vacation rental data for 2024. The main things that we're going to be covering are going to be the number of properties, occupancy rates, as well as the ADR. So from here, this is a graph of the total listings showing from 2018 through now. And you can see the trend here over the last 2 years is that we've added 10,000 properties, about 5,000 per year. And our expectation, and from what we've been hearing in conversations with realtors and lawyers as well as architects, is that this is going to be a slowdown in 2025. This rate of 5,000 properties per year just isn't sustainable. And out of all those properties, the most common are 1 and 2 bedroom luxury homes. So looking at the number of new properties by area, Uvita and Cauita are the top destinations in terms of new number of properties added. And what's interesting is when we look at how this affects the data on the upcoming slides, the number of properties does tend to play with the occupancy as well as the ADR. So looking at the ADR changes in the popular areas, if you look at La Fortuna, as well as Monteverde, Flamingo, This increase in ADR shows, a strong demand for the properties and that it provides them the ability to command this higher price. But it also might have to come into play with the number of new properties that were added there. Because when you look at Uvita and with a drop and Cavite with a slight increase, the new number of properties there is increasing competition. So it's either forcing people to lower their prices to be competitive or not increase their prices as much to stay competitive. And so here's a graph just showing the location changes, the locations and the ADR changes. As you can see, overall, it's been increasing, but there are some destinations where it has decreased. And this is really driven mainly by high season demand. So when we look at the occupancy changes here, in Papagayo with a 14% increase, just this area is particularly driven by a high-end luxury market that really appeals to affluent travelers, and it continues to showcase itself as a favor for that with exclusivity as well as top-tier amenities. The other interesting part of San Jose is, with an increase of 4%, we're seeing a trend for travelers spending more time in either at the beginning or tail end of their trips around the major airport there. And with Samara, Uvita, and Cavite, with those large increases in new properties, we can see the decrease in occupancy, which it's not surprising. It's not even something that's necessarily worrying. It's just that phase of the market where there's been such an increase in demand, such an increase in supply that the demand isn't keeping up to par with it, but it's also not trailing so far behind that it's limiting. In fact, this is really a time where if you have a property that is unique and is differentiated from a lot of the other ones, where you can really shine through this and do better. And same thing, from this graph, you can see the different changes and where places have done better than others. And again, with more properties entering the market, it's just natural for these occupancy rates to dip and the markets to adjust to it accordingly. Increased competition amongst the property owners spreads the demand across a larger area. And that's just common during periods of rapid growth, which is what we've seen over the past 2 years.
I mean, it is interesting, Jake, how, I would say occupancy. I mean, I think if you correlated occupancy with growth, not as a percentage, but like number of actual new listings, is just kind of somewhat directly correlated. It's going to be interesting next year to kind of see how the demand in Costa Rica in general kind of impacts some of these areas. And if I was guessing, which again, this is as a prediction, I think you're going to continue to see a lot of that probably in the Uvita, probably Cavite and Samara areas, which are not A destinations. They're kind of more B destinations, meaning the A destinations being Manuel Antonio, Arenal, Tamarindo, Flamingo, kind of those, Nosada, those kind of areas. Which, on this occupancy graph, you're not seeing that much movement in their occupancy numbers, but you are seeing it in more kind of these B destinations.
Yeah, the main areas have stayed pretty consistent. Even with ADR, I think La Fortuna was the only one that really stuck out with a significant increase.
Yeah.
But these areas with growth and occupancy, I mean, they're mainstays. That's where people go. It's where they're going to continue to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll cover that a little bit more in my recommendations, going forwards. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see that data and just kind of, use the country data to kind of give you an idea of what's going to happen next year. Then use this data to figure out of okay, where's the opportunity? And then, yeah, I mean, I don't even think you're going to be using the real estate data, which I'm about to get into at the moment, if it's kind of more an investment, because then it's about cash flow. But I think the real estate data will just give you a little bit of an idea of what's going in the market. even so, I think the real estate market is lacking data hugely. It's the one part of, I would say, Costa Rica that really doesn't have great data. I mean, we don't have great data in general, and we definitely don't have great data in real estate just because it's so decompartmentalized, and that the MLS has not really been that, I would say, adapted throughout the whole country. Okay. So this, guys, is listing on major real estate websites. We took 10 of the major real estate websites in Costa Rica. Every single month, basically, we track them. We actually started doing it in April 2024 to December 2024 there. So a lot of new product coming online, guys, there. As you can see, we saw a 12% increase in the amount of product coming online to be sold. So these are real estate listings on these websites, okay? It's going to be interesting to see how this demand and supply rolls out. But the good news is that it looks like there is a lot of supply. The one thing that we'll actually work on next year is actually breaking this down into area as well, because I think that would be interesting to figure out of like, where's there new real estate listings coming online in certain areas of Costa Rica? Because I know in Jaco, there is huge amounts of new listings coming online as well. Manuel Antonio, not so much. La Fortuna probably doesn't exist. But there are certain areas where, I can see a lot of stuff coming online, especially up in the Papagayo area as well, with new developments coming in, and also in Jaco. So, it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like in 2025. I'll give you a little bit of some MLS data here for kind of what it's worth, guys. It's only been in existence 2 years here in Costa Rica. In the last year, there's been a 4 times increase in listings, meaning the amount of data on the actual MLS. It's starting to be used more with a little bit of greater adoption, guys, but like it's very small compared to the actual, I would say, overall percentage of all listings in Costa Rica. So I'm expecting next year we'll get a little bit of data. And again, as more people kind of start to come on and use this a lot more as well. We're in kind of the back end of it. It's going to be interesting again to be able to get that data. When we look at listings v sales on the MLS, guys, when we look at residential sales from 2023 to 2024, we saw an 18 versus 13% basically of sales, meaning that if we had 100 listings, they sold 18. This year, if we had 100, we sold 13 basically. So, I don't think the data is clear enough to be conclusive because of that huge jump in the number of listings as well. I think 2025 is going to give us a better idea. I mean, but based on this, you're going to see that there is a bit of a softening in the market with regards to real estate from 2023 to 2024. And I think a lot of people are saying that as well. The real estate lawyers are saying that, and also the realtors are saying that there's a little bit of softening in the market in 2024. It's still strong in some areas, but in general, it has, I would say, softened as well. And you'll see that in some of the prices. With regards to land sales, guys, that actually went up from 7% to 11%, which was interesting. Again, even with the increase in the amount of land listings, the number still went up there. So it looks like that there is still demand there for land as well. I hope it's just not us buying land throughout Costa Rica that's driving that. I don't think it is, but it appears that there is a lot of people looking to invest in land and build, and also bank as well on land as well, which is a strategy for investing here in Costa Rica. I would not always suggest it for everyone unless you really know what it is that you're doing. But I think just going back to the MLS, guys, I think it's just really difficult to use this data just because there's just not enough data in it to be conclusive, guys. So if we were to take these numbers, we would say that, okay, there's a reduction in residential sale, a growth in land sales, which potentially, yes, there might be, but it's just not conclusive of all real estate here in Costa Rica. And I don't think the sample size is big enough to be conclusive either, guys, on that one. So I wanted to share it with you just so that you could take it for what it is. But we'll continue to kind of report on some of that MLS data there for you as well. Also, one of the things that we look at is bank listings, guys, meaning that where someone defaults and banks basically take on these properties and put it on their websites in order to look at. I don't think it's foretelling for the expat market here, but just gives you an idea of kind of what's happening here within the local market as well, because there are banks that, like, for instance, Lafis and Bank San Jose, that do lend to the expat market. But I would say the majority of this is probably covered by the local market, but it'll give you an idea of kind of really what's happening in the local market here as well, guys. And I can say just from my knowledge and also economic data, it's a very strong market in Costa Rica at the moment, and a very strong local market here as well. And also the local market is also driving some of the purchases at the beach as well, which I'm sure that if you speak to any of the realtors, they'll also say that as well, that there are also Tico buyers here, Costa Ricans, buying at the beach. I was actually saying to my wife that 23 years ago when I came to Costa Rica, like you didn't sense that, I would say Costa Ricans had a lot of money. Now driving around, you sense that there is a lot of money on the street here in Costa Rica. So it's going to be interesting to see how this number develops. But I don't think it's anything to look at and make decisions on. It's just an idea to give you an idea, I think, of what's happening in the local economy here, though, as well. So in summary, a lot of new product guys, coming online. We've got a lot of big developments, and we'll have to see how that demand is based on this, this increased supply. We're seeing that like this year that sales didn't really greatly increase. We've seen a lot of settling in pricing and also settling in sales as well. It's still good. We've heard a lot of people say that like, look, no, I mean, it's still good. It's just not as good as the past couple of years. So, it's still better than 2019, but it's not as crazy as 2021, 2022, and 2023. We've started to see a little bit of settling in 2024. And I think we've probably seen that in a lot of global real estate markets, guys. And also, I put the question out there though, are we moving to a buyer's market now? I believe that we are starting to move to a buyer's market, guys. In the last couple of months, we've been buying personally, and it's been great, the flexibility in the pricing, because a year ago, there really wasn't much flexibility in pricing. Sometimes we were actually fighting with other buyers over a property, but it was only 2 buyers. It wasn't like in the US, we had like 15 or 20 buyers to one property. We don't typically get that here in Costa Rica. So in summary, in general, for 2024, guys, tourism is up 10%. However, at the end of the year, kind of flatlined a little bit, guys, and Liberia continues to grow. Vacation rentals, we saw a big increase in new listings in 2024. As Jake had mentioned, over the past 2 years, we've seen 5,000 rentals added per year, which is insane, guys. I mean, we've doubled rentals, the amount of rentals basically in Costa Rica, I think in like a 4-year period, which is, incredible. Occupancy is decreasing in some markets, but ADR is still, staying strong there, which I think Jake had mentioned there is probably being driven by the Q1 average daily rates that we have there. The demand is still there for high season. I think will continue to be there, which will drag up average daily rates. But we're going to have to see how occupancy is going to perform in 2025. In real estate, guys, as I mentioned there, we continue to see the number of properties for sale increase, and also some price softening in some markets as well. If any of you guys are watching that, there is some price softening in some markets, not in all markets. And we'll get to some markets that we think are still strong here in Costa Rica when we look at 2025. But I think the big thing from real estate, guys, is I think we're starting to see that the buyer is having more control. It's kind of maybe switching more to a buyer's market in some markets anyway. Definitely not in Playa Grande. I have a client buying a piece of property in Playa Grande, but again, there is not that much supply of property there at the moment. So, and they're like Papagayo continues to do well, guys, there as well. But in other markets such as Flamingo and Potrero, where maybe prices did go a little bit crazy, we're starting to see some softening in some of those markets there. So, in summary, guys, which is kind of I think what you've been looking for here. Here's our prediction for 2025, guys. We believe tourism arrivals will be flat. I think you heard that. Google Trends is showing a bit of a slowdown towards the end of next year. We expect 0 growth, but we do expect Liberia to continue to increase as a percentage of arrivals. I think that because of the instability politically and probably economically in Q1 of next year, we think that's going to have an impact on tourism, and that's probably going to lead to a flat arrivals for the year, guys. Again, as we said there, we do think Q1 of people basically coming to Costa Rica, we still think that that's going to be a bit of we're going to see an increase, but we think that Q2, Q3, Q4 will be a lot softer, and that the whole year will just be won't have much growth. Vacation rentals, we think that fewer will be added. We're going to see more softening in occupancy and ADR, I think, in non-key markets, and those non-A markets, guys, as the demand doesn't appear at the rate at which new properties are being added. We think that there's going to be this, imbalance in demand and supply there, and that's going to have an impact on occupancy. And then there's going to have basically a bit more competition on average daily rates as well. And Airbnb will have a big part to play in this, especially for people that put their rates on dynamic rates, because then they will start kind of competing with each other on those. And I preface that with saying in non-key markets, guys, as well. We still see strong vacation rentals in Arenal, Monteverde, Mamon Antonio, Papagayo, and it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of plays out for 2025 as well. But we still think that they are areas where they'll still see strong vacation rental occupancy and average daily rates. And again, in real estate, we see further price softening and it becoming a buyer's market as well, guys, a little bit stronger there as well. So remember, it's a cash buyer's market here as well, guys. So it's going to be very interesting to see kind of what happens to real estate, but we do believe it's going to start to become a buyer's market where it was a seller's in 2022, 2023, 2024, a bit of a switch, and we think 2025 is now going to become a buyer's market as it was pre-pandemic. So our advice for you guys, when it comes to investing those core destinations, you saw it in Jake's data there. Focus on those core destinations, guys, where there is not tons of product, but there is good demand, okay? And unique product. Jake had mentioned unique product there. I think it's more and more important to create unique product, guys, just so that you're not sitting in that, hey, I got a 1-bedroom condo or a 2-bedroom condo. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but again, stick to core destinations if you are going to do that. And also invest based on cash flow. I can't say this enough. Like, don't invest today, I don't know, $200,000 in a property, thinking that in 5 years it's going to be worth $300,000. You have to invest based on the fundamentals of that property today, which is what does its cash flow look like and how is that going to hold over the lifetime that you hold on to that investment. So one of the things that we love to do is produce cash flow forecasts for properties as well. Anybody that needs any help with that, let us know. But I'll say here is you need to be looking at the cash flow of a property when investing in it, and not looking at, hey, it's going to be worth 300,000 in X amount of years, I'm going to make 100 grand, because that might not happen, guys. So it's better to, as I said there, invest based on its cash flow. Or if you're just investing for lifestyle, you don't need to worry about any of that, guys. We see opportunities, still continue to see opportunities in La Fortuna, Monteverde. We've mentioned some other areas like Papagayo, guys, and there are some other unique areas, but we still think that La Fortuna and Monteverde is still lacking, especially high-end luxury product, guys. And we can just see it in the data. We continue to do it. We're investing in those areas in La Fortuna and Monteverde. If you guys are interested, you can reach out to us and we'll explain kind of what we're doing there. We're an open book on that stuff. You can get involved as well. But just the data continues to say La Fortuna and Monteverde. We see it in their vacation rental data. We see it in tourism data. We see it in the travel agency data. It just continues to push there, guys. I always say to people of like, look, there are tons of beach destinations in Costa Rica, but like usually people are going to the mountainous areas and then down to the beach. There's not that many destinations. I mean, it literally is La Fortuna or Monteverde. They're your main destinations when it comes to mountains. So everyone's going to go to one of them and then go to the multiple different beaches. So yeah. And also, if you are going to invest, guys, negotiate. It's a buyer's market. 2025 will be. We love nothing better than a good negotiation. And I think if you're ever looking at a property and want some advice on just its pricing, etc., feel free to reach out to us. I've said before, we're a sucker for helping people. You can, again, go to our website, investingcostarica.com, or just email us info@investingcostarica.com. But that's our advice. That's kind of our wrap up of what happened in 2024, what we think is going to happen in 2025. We hope it's been useful, and we'll get to the questions now. Let's get to the questions here. Let's see what questions we've got. I know that we've got some here. Okay. Kyle says, with all the new massive resort projects being held up north, built and opening, what do you think tourism will be? Do you think tourism will be the same flat number as 2024? I think overall, yes, Kyle, we think 2024 will continue to be flat. As I said, we think Q1, high season is just very easy to fill. It's cold up north. A lot of people chartering planes, and especially with those massive resort projects, yes, they'll continue to come in there. And I think that's why we'll continue to see that move, to Liberia, to arrivals into Liberia, because that's where the major tourism projects are. But yeah, I think it's still going to be better Q1, but I think it's going to be a little less in Q2, Q3, Q4 next year, meaning that the number will be flat overall. Shundle says here, are the arrivals into Costa Rica still from the same locations, or have there been certain areas, countries, provinces, states that are a larger increase in inbound traffic? That's a great question, Shundle. we can take a look at that data and maybe cover it in one of the future webinars. If I'm guessing, which is what I would be doing here, I think you're probably seeing a bit of an increase in basically areas such as Europe kind of coming here. But I still think you're going to continue to see North America being, 60-65% of all arrivals here. They don't get it from the state level. You need to take a look at flights and flight loads for that. And unfortunately, that data is typically not shared on Chandel, unfortunately. Hey, Travis, good to hear from you, buddy. Thanks for this webinar. You guys crush it as always. Thank you. Can you speak to any known new changes in regulations for short-term rentals? I've heard that Airbnb will not share owners' information, as Costa Rica is asking. In most countries, Airbnb collect the taxes and submit to the government. Currently, if one owns an Airbnb in Costa Rica and the reservation booking money goes to a US or Canadian bank account, no money hits Costa Rica, and there's no taxable transaction. Will this change? Or will they come after the big boys first, large homes for bachelor parties, as an example? Funny that you say this, Travis. I have a lot of friends who are diputados here and we're actually driving this basically to Tributación Hacienda, which is the IRS here. Airbnb is actually going to be reporting that information back, okay? We were in a conversation with the municipality of Santa Cruz the other day, and even the municipality were mentioning that Hacienda here, which is the IRS, is putting a lot of basically pressure on them with regards to all these new vacation rentals and sharing all of this vacation rental data as well. So it's on Hacienda's, which is again the IRS's radar. Whether what happens about it, I've got no idea on that one, Travis. It's a great question. If I'm guessing, I'm going to say that Airbnb is going to end up giving the data to Hacienda, just because I know the people behind the lobbying for this is the hotel industry, basically. The hotel industry is lobbying the IRS here to basically go after vacation rentals to make sure that it's an even playing field on this one. And I don't think they're going to give up, because I do know that they're a strong lobby. I'm also involved in that lobby as well, guys. So I kind of have insider info. So I think that short term, maybe not, but I think long term, expect that to change, guys. Because if you've ever been on Airbnb, if you book using a foreign card or outside the US, not using a Costa Rican card, you don't pay the 13% sales tax. But if you are here in Costa Rica using a Costa Rican card, you do end up paying the 13% tax, and that does get reported. So I think that probably will change very, very soon, Travis. Okay. Travis also said the increase in rental, new builds or existing homes and condos now being used as a vacation rental when it was not before. Yeah, I mean, I think especially in your market, Travis, which I know is HACO in the Central Pacific, HACO is about to see probably a doubling of the amount of vacation rentals available. So I think that market could be very indicative of what's going to happen going forwards in some of these markets. I still think that there's a lot of opportunity in markets where we're not seeing that growth and new product coming online. Like, we're not seeing new product in, as we said there, La Fortuna, Monteverde. We're not seeing that new product in Mamon Antonio for some reason. There are just certain markets, Travis, where we're not seeing that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting how this wave of new rentals that hits in certain areas has an impact on occupancy and ADR. But if demand is, say, flat over the year, but the number of rentals increases, I think we're going to see occupancy and ADR probably potentially decrease next year, guys, and especially in non-key markets. William says, William from WL3 Designs, just want to say thanks for the great data. You guys know your stuff. I'd love to partner with you on projects. William, reach out to us. We'd love to chat with you. Again, you can email us info@investing@costarica.com. Just send us a quick email, and we're always happy to chat, whether it's our projects, whether it's our clients' projects. We get a lot of stuff done here in Costa Rica. So more than happy. And as we say, we've always got, it used to be 30 minutes, but now 15 minutes with everyone. Shandor says, based on your podcast, which I love, the market seems to be shifting to higher end projects and homes. Is there still demand for the mid-market projects, or is demand shifting to higher end homes? Shandor, no, I think there's demand for everything, to be honest with you. I think what I would not be investing in is lower end stuff at like $80, $50 a night, that kind of stuff. It's just that the numbers don't work. And the amount of effort and work needed is exactly the same to get $50 a night as it is sometimes to get $150 a night. But I still think that there is a lot of demand for that mid-level market. Just as Costa Rica gets more expensive, of course, the percentage of people that can afford Costa Rica goes down. And that's why sometimes you're seeing a more focus on higher end homes, just because, that's where the demand is actually growing, and that there's a lack of product in that area as well. Like La Fortuna or Monteverde, I'm just going to say it again, lack high end luxury villas. And that's what we're actually doing at the moment. because we can't wait for the market to do it. So we go out and do it ourselves with investors like yourselves, basically, and then, make you guys money. So, yeah, I think there's still demand for mid-market projects. I just think, as Jake said there, it needs to be unique, guys. And if you can add more bedrooms to it, even better. Because if you're a one bedroom, it's a big chunk of the market. Two bedrooms is, I think that of all rentals in Costa Rica, 75% are three bedrooms or less. So if you can be in that 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think it just basically kind of just, you have less, I would say, competition in that circumstance. And one thing we're actually trying to do is do like a 3 bedroom and a 2 bedroom that become a 5 bedroom, and kind of play like that with a little bit of Tetris there. So, I think that's it. I think that's all the questions that we have there, guys. We very much appreciate everyone joining us here on the webinar. If anyone does want to reach out to us, you can do. As we said, all of our contact details are in this webinar as well. And again, here are our websites. Jake's email is there, jake@investingcostarica.com. But we hope you all had a great 2024. Wish you all the best in 2025. And just want to say thank you very much for everything, guys. Bye. Fantastic.
Cool.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I think everyone's going to start